Just to start us off, let's warm up with this self-massage exercise. So just rubbing your hands together and start by tapping over your face. Excuse me. And then work up over your head and neck. And down to one shoulder. And then your arm. And just beginning to get that sense of settling in. Focusing your attention on the sensations that you get with the tapping, so that as well as the physical warm-up that comes with this, there's that gentle focusing of our attention into the lower part of the back. One hand or both hands, working out to your hips, and then your legs. Right on your belly, and finally the upper part of your chest. Shake out. Give yourself a moment standing, and again, like everything else, this is a mind-body thing. We want to just stand quietly, sort of draw our attention into our bodies, so that all the kind of busyness, the details of getting here and things going on in our lives, just begin to take a back seat. Just simple awareness of your body breathing, your body standing, coming to the foreground. And any adjustments made very simply, very gently, but just see if you can bring your weight forwards a little bit. Get this feeling that in the lower back, hips, buttocks, you can maybe just feel the pull of gravity, just allowing to sink back. So there's a slight curve in the knees here, but as your hips sink down, it creates space for your rib cage to drop, your shoulders to drop. You may notice a change in your breathing almost straight away as you cease to hold tightness in the front of your body. No particular method or pattern of breathing, just feeling how your body is breathing. Begin to turn a little bit in your hips and your waist. Notice how your body moves itself. Try to get away from the idea that somehow we have to strain to move. And as the movement starts off, when you turn in one direction, there's an extension on the opposite side of your body. That's just naturally going to contract. What we want to make sure is that we don't get here and resist that contraction. And as we begin to refine our posture, allowing our weight to drop, rooting down, bringing ourselves more into line with the pull of gravity, we begin to release some of the tightness and stiffness in the body, and that natural movement of the body, the rhythm, the flow, the elasticity of the tissue, is given more chance to actually begin to work. And this is really about how we're making the effort to move. Allowing the movement rather than forcing the movement, not straining. Notice if you have a tendency, as we all do really, to stiffen somewhere in your body. Quite often the the sort of unconscious start to movement is to kind of brace ourselves in some way or another. That being replaced with just that awareness that as long as we're not straining, our body will move. And so we start to get that very characteristic flow that builds from this. But we're also beginning to recognise that there are different ways that we can apply effort to movement. It's not that there's no effort, but the effort is more about, can I drop the centre, can I align my posture? Those kind of efforts that we make to cultivate the movement. The term cultivation is quite an interesting one. If you're a gardener, you'll know that what you have to do is you have to prepare the soil and weed and till and so on and so forth, and you plant the seeds or the plants, you water them and you keep going like that, and then the plant grows itself in that sense. The change in the posture from this very stiff, pushing ourselves up to allowing our centre of gravity to sink, is at this point quite a small change, but quite a profound one. So there is effort in the sense that you may feel that your legs start to ache a bit, for instance, as your body encounters a different shape, a different way of moving. There's bound to be a physical response. So I'm not suggesting that this is, shall we say, just easy or that we don't have to make an effort. It's more, again, where we put that effort. Just raising your arms a little. And then drop down and put 1 foot forwards, keeping the width of your step about the same in length. And the same applies here. As we go forwards and backwards, we may find that we're sort of pushing our shoulders forward, straining in our chest. Instead, think of this feeling of connection to the ground. And if I'm going to come closer, and I'm going to exaggerate this, but it's like I'm dropping down in the leg, and when I do that, it's going to push me back, and rather than letting it push me up, I let it push me forwards. I'd emphasise that was exaggerated. Go easy on your knees, but once again, creating the environment within which the movement simply happens. Change over to the other side. So for people with experience in these arts, it's easy to overlook these initial exercises, but it's within these initial exercises, not only do we go through the physical warm-up, and that is of course important, but we also remind ourselves of essential aspects of this art. And awareness and intention are key parts of this. We can begin to notice things and bring them more into the foreground, of the activity. So once again, a parallel stance, your feet below your hips, so hip width, so your hips are supported. That means your hips can support your shoulders. The basic stance, the top stance, shall we call it, and I'm going to exaggerate again slightly. We bring our weight a little bit forwards, and what that does, that actually causes our body to angle, to tilt a little bit, and of course what that means is we'll end up pulling forwards. Gravity will pull us over. But then this feeling of just allowing the hips to drop back. So we go forwards, but the hips drop back, that softens in the knees and brings the pelvis more into line, and also begins this process of rooting down, allowing our centre of gravity to drop. So as I stand here, my shoulders in line with my hips themselves in line with the ankle bones, feeling that my back and spine or rib cage are able to support the soft tissue of the front of the body. Arms just hanging, aware of the weight of your arms. Trying not to pull your belly in or tighten your chest. And again, maybe noticing how that just enables your body to breathe. Less tightness, more space for movement within the body. Letting your hips drop back a little bit. So you'll sink down. Again, go carefully with this. Just have a sense for how far you can go down without your knees stiffening up, and feel that there's then a push up that pushes you back up to that top position and then sinking down. Your legs compressing and then expanding. When they expand, your feet get pushed into the ground, your hips get pushed up. As your hips get pushed up, you get this sense of a push up towards your shoulders. So this movement, this energy, building up through the body, and then starting the cycle over again by allowing your hips to drop and feeling the push up. And once again, get a sense of your body moving itself, you don't have to think, well, I need to sort of bend my knees or drop my hips back. Gravity will do that for you. You don't need to think about pushing up, because the resilience in the ground beneath you and in your feet and your legs will take care of that, just allowing that to happen. Let it settle into a nice, steady, harmonious flow and rhythm. Flow and a rhythm that's going to underpin all of the other movements. So then, bringing your hands around as though you're cradling a ball, as you feel the expansion coming up through your belly and into your chest, pushing your elbows out, drawing your arms up, turn your hands as though there's a ball underneath them, that your hips drop, and your arms follow, rooting down. So, rooting down is the term that we give to this dropping of the centre of gravity, and the lower your centre of gravity, the more stable you are. So this is a key aspect of the art, because the more stable you are, the less tight you will be. And of course, that stability is an important outcome in its own right. It's also the rooting down when we think of it as a process that initiates a cycle that leads to this rise in movement, this rise in energy through the body. And because our awareness is grounded, rooted in our body, and because the movement returns to the ground, it reinforces this sense of stillness, quietness, that again is one of the essential components of the art, and also one of the key takeaways, I think. Maybe finding that your breathing has naturally found a harmony with that rhythm. If it has, well and good. If it hasn't, then be patient with that. It will find it eventually. It's probably not a permanent thing. You may find every now and then a need to take a longer breath or shorter breath or an extra breath. That's quite normal. And then turning your fingers out and turn into the wild goose. So with the wild goose, we get this very clear image of a bird in flight. We may find that that or other images also feed in to our intention and have an influence on the movement. The most common image is this one of moving through water, which really helps us to get a feel for this quality of movement that I'm talking about. It has both a sense of flow because it encourages a releasing of tightness in the body, but also a conditioning quality because water is quite dense to move through. So it does require a conditioning of our body physically. An alternative image for this might be to imagine that you are still in water and that you've got a little ball underneath the palm of each hand. And you're sinking down to press the balls down, and then as you come up, you're letting them come up very slowly. So don't get stuck on an image. If an image is offering some kind of quality, that's fine. If it isn't, don't get too distracted by that. Sometimes it's worth sort of investigating that a little bit. Sometimes the meaning may take longer to make itself felt. And then letting your hands drop down, crossing in front of your belly, pushing up, just parting the clouds. So for the first time in this exercise, our hands are going up above our heads. And so think about again how this is happening. As your arms move up, is there a tendency to grip, to tighten? Your chest, your back, your shoulders, the arms themselves. Can you just catch that and release that? And bring your attention back again to that rising movement that comes from your legs and from the ground, pushing your arms up. So we find this, what might appear to be a slightly abstract or esoteric aspect of this rising movement, this rising energy. This exercise has a very practical quality because raising our arms up above our head can prove to be quite a strain. Yet it's a daily activity, isn't it? You know, getting something off a shelf, putting the washing on the line. And so we can begin to apply these qualities in our everyday lives. One more time. Letting your hands drop down to your sides, around the weight of your arms, and then with the next push up, focusing on one side of your body, letting the movement push your arm up, wind around as though you're plucking something off a tree, an apple or something, pull down. Take a moment to feel your hips settle in, and then once again, push up. This dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Again, your arms coming up, your hand coming up above your head. Try and make sure that you're not doing something which is quite a common habit, which is to pull your arm back at this point. Keep your arm slightly in front of your body. Always taking that moment to settle, to regather your attention in between the stages, both the lower stage but also the top stage. And recognizing that we can move the focus of our intention from one side to another. So we we can begin to direct that basic pattern of expansion and contraction in different shapes through imagery, through the memory and knowledge of the exercise, through an awareness of detail of where we're feeling patterns of expansion and contraction in the body. An awareness of those details is a really useful tool to help us to slow down. We may find, I mentioned all those details of our lives, maybe creeping back in, and we find ourselves thinking about what happened this morning, or what's going to happen later this evening, or at the weekend, or whatever. And we just gently disengage from that, and we turn our attention back to what's happening in our feet, in our hips, the sides of our body, and in our arms. The ability to do this is also, I think, one of the great benefits of the art, that we can find a sense of being still, a sense of being grounded in the midst of the activities of our daily lives. One more on each side. Coming back to the slightly higher stance, but still not locked in your knees. Bring your hands lightly touching the side of your body. This is the part of the body that we want to feel is dropping down towards the ground. So this part of the body is a key point for the returning of our attention here. Remember, we're not just training muscle and tendon and ligament and bone, we're training the nervous system and brain as well. And from here, push up gently, feel the lengthening through your back and your spine, as though you're pushing against a low ceiling, and then returning, lightly touching the side of your hips, feeling those hips dropping down towards the ground, and then pushing out sideways and turning a little bit and back. Pushing in 4 directions, turning the other way and back. And then facing forwards and push out. So once again, we're able to direct, to shape that fundamental pattern of movement. And the part of the body that we do that through is that central part of the body. Hips, waist, the center of the body, guiding the arms when we choose to turn. From there we feel the expansion, and then the contraction, and then the connection to the ground. So that terms like being grounded and being centered cease to be sort of metaphors or abstract. We actually have the direct living experience of them in our bodies. Aware perhaps of areas of the body where there isn't that fluid movement. Areas of tightness or stiffness. It may be that by adjusting how we're moving, adjusting our posture, we can bring a sense of release to them. It may be that a particular exercise will help with that. But we can also bring an intention to release in those areas. I sometimes have an image that those areas of stiffness and tightness as being like a rock in the bed of a river, with the movement flowing around it and over it and through it, gradually smoothing the rock off. One more round of this. And with that moment of just settling again each time, beginning to see that as part of that underlying rhythm. So this time, let your arms drop down, focusing on one side again, one arm pushing out, elbows slightly curved so your arm swings around and over, and then down the centre line of your body, past your nose, past your sternum, past your navel. And this time, as your arm reaches the top position, turning. Once again, the centre of your body is the point from which the shape, if you like to think of it like that, is created. Changing sides. Adding the turn. In this top position, sinking down, and as you sink down, push your hips back a little bit so that your pelvis tilts. I'm going to do this quite big so you can see what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be this big. Keeping that sense of a straight line from shoulders to hips, and then to come upright, let gravity pull your hips down, drawing your head up gently, feel the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, and then pushing up, and then once again using the centre of your body, this time in conjunction with the pull of gravity, to just adjust the alignment of your body, and as you push up, your arms following, rowing a boat in the middle of the lake, a gentle extension through back and spine, through arms and fingers, and then coming back. Once again, This idea, this phrase, the body moving itself, not straining to come upright, but rather letting your body respond to the pull of gravity by letting your hips drop back, letting that movement draw your shoulders, draw your head up without straining. The muscles, the soft tissue of your body is still being used, but it's being used in a different way. So again, there is physical conditioning required here. So go gently. These exercises are strong in a different way to many other forms of exercise. And then hands in front of your belly, turning, and then the same thing, pushing your hips back, dropping down slightly, swinging across, let your hips drop down and come back. Polishing the table, again, an extension up, not locking your shoulders with your elbows. Back, again, slightly exaggerated so you can see what my hips are doing. Going as far as you're comfortable moving. Going as far as you can go without losing that sense of space within the body that allows the underlying movement, the underlying flow of energy. One more in each direction. And then come back to stand. So we can begin to see again, very practical aspect to this idea of the way that we move, the approach to the movement and the flow that comes out of that we begin to recognize, which is that we begin to find ways to, for instance, be upright without the stiffness, the strain. And these are things that, in my experience, kind of flow over into our daily lives. We become more aware of how we're walking down the road, of our posture while we're doing the washing up, and so on and so forth. You might want to have your feet just slightly wider apart for this exercise. You'll notice I've got my feet turned out just a little bit as well. You might not feel the need, excuse me, to do that. Sorry about that. So bring your hands around as though you're holding the ball between them. Right hand on top, left hand underneath. You sink down and push up, and we get that sense of compression and release from the centre of the body down into the ground. And we mirror that by pressing the hands together, let them slide past each other and push up. Extending through one side, contracting through the other, stretching between heaven and earth. Sinking down, hands slide past each other as though you're pressing up towards the ceiling and down towards the ground. So that flow of movement in the body isn't random. It follows certain patterns, certain pathways that we can begin to bring a degree of intentionality to. This time, you're comfortable with this, going carefully as you push up, just move your weight into your left a little bit. You'll get about 60% of your weight across at this point. Dropping down in the middle, pushing up, extending through the right side. This time, as you go in to your left, push the right knee in so your heel comes off the ground and a bit more of your weight goes across. Down in the middle, pushing up. You get a stronger sense of pushing up as well, I think, with this one. So you gradually bring your upper body in line with the leg. Don't go out there. So we begin to find that support, that alignment that we found over two legs, more over one leg. Feeling the connection from the sole of your foot to the palm of that top hand. This time, bring your left foot in. Step out again, turn your hands in to hold the ball, sink down in the middle, push up, extending, bring the foot in. Carefully as you drop down, not straining in your knees. And if it's comfortable for you this time, having brought the foot in, just rotating the left hip, bringing the knee up. Don't go too far down. What you don't want to do is to get to here and feel you're going to have to sort of fight your body to come up. It's quite a strong exercise in hips and legs, of course. It's a good exercise for that. Not to be overdone in that aspect of it, or any aspect of it really. One more time. And then stretching between heaven and earth. It's an exercise that comes from a set of movements called the 8 strands of the brocade, or the 8 precious cloths sometimes. It's a relatively, it was developed in I think the 18th century by a Chinese general called Sun Lutang. Not everybody would do stretching between heaven and earth in exactly that way. There's a lot of variations on this, but I particularly like that variation. Now, changing the stance again from the parallel position, imagine parallel lines going across the room, tram lines we sometimes call them. Turn your left foot out a little bit, and this is an angle I would invite you to play around with to make sure it's comfortable. Step straight forwards with the right foot, toes pointing forwards, keeping the width of the step and about the same in length, and then once again beginning to transfer your weight more slowly than before, so more of an opportunity to settle, to feel that compression as your center sinks through the leg and into the ground, and to feel the expansion so that the energy, the movement is there for you to guide, rather than feeling that you have to strain to produce it. To begin with, your upper body rests, it sits on your hips. And we want to avoid this tendency to sort of lean forwards, to strain, as I said. But when we get used to this again, we can bring in the image of moving through water. And that engages a very subtle sense of change in the upper part of our body. Because if I was actually in water up to shoulder height here, and I moved my weight forwards and did nothing in the upper part of my body, this is what would happen. My body has to adjust and find a way to meet the resistance of the water, knowing, as we do almost instinctively, that if we were to stiffen up, it becomes hard work. We increase the resistance. So again, that image of moving through water has both an effect on the body to release tightness and to improve the flow of the movement, and at the same time to condition our body in a particular way that is very characteristic of Tai Chi, leading to a quality sometimes referred to as inner strength. I like the term inner resilience, not just physically, but in the quality of the movement as well. And I sometimes feel that change, almost like the change between, if you could imagine a light breeze flowing over your skin and then water flowing over your skin, a slightly denser quality to it. And so we begin to just cultivate a more resilient quality of movement in the flow, the energy, and a more resilient physical structure to go with that flow. In fact, I would argue that structure and flow are not separate in that sense. And this is something, again, to remind yourself of. You know, when you're walking down the road, just see if you can remember, oh yeah, it's possible to move without the straining. And then beginning to raise your toes and your heel. We're not going for speed. We're not going for power, so this is not like running for the bus or something like that. In those circumstances, we would want to angle the body to get greater momentum. But if we did that, we risk falling. And so when we angle the body, we need to remember what happens in, say, rowing a boat. Remember the hips going back. So rather than leaning forwards, we tilt the upper body. That can take our centre of gravity forwards with the kind of almost the braking effect of the hips going back, stabilising ourselves. Bring one foot in, bring the front foot in, step in, push out again, put your heel down. Now you can have the foot very slightly turned out once again. Press the foot into the floor and let your weight move in. When you step back, same idea, but it's going to be the border of the foot that goes down first, making sure the foot goes down in the correct position. It's no good having this idea about cultivating internal energy, that movement, if the vehicle through which that energy is moving is blocking the movement. You can't separate out structure from the flow of the movement. And you can't separate out those two things from the awareness of this, because we want to constantly work with this. There's a refinement of the posture and understanding that goes with that. And also because when our minds switch off, we often just fall back on old habits of movement and posture. Now try that with your other foot forwards. Hip width about the same or slightly longer in length. So we gradually learn to replace those old habits with newer, more useful habits. Not straining to hold ourselves upright, but allowing gravity to pull our hips down. Not clenching ourselves, not tightening ourselves to begin to move, but rather feeling the movement that is there and finding a way to let it through. Not rushing. I'm not saying that we shouldn't move at speed. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we're required to, but not that mad rush in the mind that says you've got lots to do. You've got lots to do. There are these moments of settling, of stillness that begin to pervade the whole movement, and that stillness enables a greater awareness and more opportunity to engage with those details in a more creative way. Raising your toes and your heel. The phrase in the Tai Chi writings I really like that relates to this is where they urge you to seek the stillness within the movement. Stillness is not seen as something that happens when there's no movement or no need to move, but rather an essential part of the whole process of movement. Stepping in. Take a few steps forwards or backwards, depending on where you have the space. And then going back. Have your right foot forward. Start with your weight in your back foot, easing forwards and letting your arms swing through. Fisherman castanet. And I would emphasize letting your arms swing through. Once again, this idea of the body moving itself, not reliant on some kind of outside agency or even on a straining in our minds. If I said to you, move your weight forwards but don't let your arms move, you'd have to put effort into doing that. If I said to you, when your arms swing through, don't let the fingers swing in a curve, you'd have to put a lot of thought and effort into that. So in that sense, this is a very natural movement. And because of that, we can let the arms follow and bring our attention more to those subtle changes within the body, patterns of movement, of expansion and contraction. So this is a good exercise to practice, to play with these ideas, to feel how they can work within your body. Once again, we're going to change, and the changes through the centre of the body. Sink your weight back, and as your arms swing through, you turn, and that just redirects your arms. Come forwards and turn. Maybe gradually finding that your arms are slowly beginning to push out more as we become more aware of those patterns of expansion and contraction. This is wind blows the willows. And it's important that we build the movement in this way. If we start to stiffen in our arms or shoulders or chest or upper back, we'll lose that sense of stability that comes with allowing our centre of gravity to sink. We'll become top heavy again. Wind blows the willows. Good. Shake out. So try those On the other side, your left foot forwards, check your stance, moving forwards, fisherman castanet. Turning into wind blows the willows. Again, noticing where you feel those patterns of expansion and contraction. If you want your arms to move more, those are the areas to bring your intention to. And then stepping in, so either going forwards or backwards, going into dragonfly skin water. Step through and plant your foot as you go forwards, your arms dropping down, sinking into the supporting leg, turning, feeling the expansion, bringing the other foot in. And again, if this feels comfortable to you, maybe just raising the leg. This is why I don't want you to stiffen up in your shoulders when we do Wind Blows the Willows, because if you do that now, it will make you top heavy, and this is when we start to wobble around. Changing direction, planting the foot. And once again, bringing the feet down. Give your legs a little shake. Once again, to help take some of the sort of tightness and the stiffness out of the body, and to recenter ourselves. Rubbing your hands together. Again, this is a tapping exercise, very simple. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. This is not a routine you have to do in any particular order, so in your own time, so start wherever feels appropriate. On the other side. Once again, onto your back. Around your hips. Coming up onto your belly, and then the upper part of your chest. Shake out. Okay, so coming back to the parallel stance, and this again, this sense of a returning, letting your hips sink, get the sense of your center sinking towards the ground. and then feeling the push up and your arms coming out. This is called Embrace Tiger, Return to Mounting. Bringing your arms around, already aware of the pull of gravity on your shoulders, on your hips, and how the movement has this very strong cyclical nature. So even if in the process of pushing out, we do lose that sense of being centered, or maybe our thoughts drift off, any number of things can go awry, can't they? We do have the means to come back. One more time. And stand. Legs to shake. Lovely. Thank you very much as always, everybody. So enjoy the rest of your day and evening. And bye for now.